Uh, Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to another webinar of the Destination Knowledge Center. Today's topic is Itinerary of the Week, and today we are discussing a photography tour. And on our panel is eminent photographer Aditya Arya.
Hello.
And as usual, my screen gets stuck sometimes, but yes, to introduce Aditya Arya is an eminent Indian photographer. He is also known for collecting, curating, and archiving a rare collection of photographs through the Aditya Arya Archive and the India Photo Archive Foundation, of which he is a chairman and trustee. He is known for curating the collection of the legendary Kulwant Roy. Roy is responsible for several iconic images of the Indian freedom struggle and the early years of India as a republic. Um, Aditya Arya's own photographic venture include works within India in areas such as Nagaland, Leh, Ladakh, Jaipur, Bihar, etc., and outside India in countries like Germany. He also teaches at the Academy for Photographic Excellence, or APEX, in Delhi, and has made the Museo Camera Center for Photographic Arts, which has the largest collection of cameras in Asia, located in Gurgaon, Haryana, India. Welcome, Aditya Arya, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Kuntil, and welcome to Museo Camera. I'm sitting in the Camera Museum. I'm lucky I come here every day, though we are officially closed, but I come here just to make sure the museum is okay and to get it cleaned. But we've been shut since 16th of March.
Right. And just to let you know about this itinerary, this is an escorted journey to be offered to clients with an accompanying photography expert. The group size is to be kept intimate and small, maximum 10 people, so that one can share and learn from each other. Before we go to the routing, I have a question for Aditya Arya. Post the fall of the Berlin Wall, you went to Germany. It was a collaboration with the German embassy to cover Germany through the Indian eyes. Tell us, what was your expectations? What did you see? What did you enjoy clicking the most, and what you didn't?
You know, Kuntil, experiencing a place through different set of eyes. Now, if I was to walk around Delhi, for me, I may not react to cows on the streets, but it's how people react, because people come from different cultures, different environments. So it was an exercise to capture Germany through an Indian eye. Before that, I had been to Germany, but I had never gone there to photograph so extensively and to travel through their villages, small towns, big towns. And I traveled from Hanover down south to Lake Constance, and I covered entire Germany in almost a month and a half. I was there, and for me, how people worked, there were small incidents. Like I had this, I'm an Indian, so, IST, I used to be either 5 minutes late, or at times I used to be early. So there were many occasions when I was early. So my interpreter, I'd said, okay, let's go in. He said, no, the appointment says 12:35. We will only go in at 12:35. So I used to say, hey, come on, how does it matter? He said, no, we have to. So, these kind of experiences and how people react to you, and it was amazing.
Right, and what did you enjoy clicking the most out there? Do you remember any stories which you want to share with us?
All, I mean, it was, the German government gave me some 500 rolls of film and a car and unlimited expenses and said, okay, go travel, shoot, whatever, and an interpreter to sort out my issues. And uh, I loved shooting the markets, the people. But, shooting in the West is very different from shooting in the East, and especially a place like India, where I can walk into a village or start shooting or walk into a street. In the West, people have this concept of private space. You can't just intrude, barge, and start shooting. Even if it's a public space, on the roadsides, you have to be very discreet. You know, uh, there is this concept of private space. People don't like to be photographed in the West. Unlike here, you can walk into Chandni Chowk and people will start posing for you. In the West, somebody can come across to you and say, hey, don't take my pictures. So you have to be, so how you actually interact with people. So I shot markets, I shot cities, I shot factories, I shot ports. Then I went down to villages. I lived in a couple of villages. So it was a great experience. It was like I created a small book of my journey. It's like in Germany through Indian eyes. It's what was happening around the wall, because early 90s, as you know, the wall had just come down. So how people used to come there and actually sit around the wall in Berlin.
Right. And my second question to you would be, according to you, what are the expectations of visitors when they come to India on a photography tour?
So it's a very difficult question. Why? Because there are, whether it's a first time visitor or a visitor who's been a regular visitor who's been coming here. So
Right.
it depends a lot on that.
Right.
And if you, sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, if it's a first time visitor, for example, what would be the expectations when it comes to a photography tour?
So first thing, my expectations are from the tour company is, have you issued them a guidelines or introduced the place to them? It's very important that a brief about the people you are going to meet, their cultural practices and something to go through, because you can't be just dropped somewhere and expect people to start shooting. So I would put that onus on the travel company to actually give them a brief on the kind of places they are going to be visiting.
Okay, so this is the routing we have, which is Delhi, Banaras, Agra, Jaipur, and back to Delhi. I'm going to turn off my video to save some bandwidth, because sitting in a remote area. Mr. Arya, please excuse me. I'm going to turn off my video for the rest of the webinar.
Sure. I can also switch it off if it helps.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll help if you keep it on. I mean, if
Okay.
your connection is stable enough.
Yeah, I don't have any issue here.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So this is the routing, which is Delhi, Varanasi, Agra, Jaipur, and Delhi. We are covering the highlights of India, which is the Golden Triangle with Banaras, and this itinerary is specifically for first timers to India. Yeah. So day one, we arrive into Delhi, where guests will be warmly welcomed by a representative at the airport and will be transferred to the hotel. Day two, we'll start the day with a acclimatization workshop. As a photographer, it's very important to be at home with one's surrounding, the people and the culture. And we will then proceed to Delhi Heart. It's an open air market which is very popular with the Delhi locals. It has art and craft from all over the country, a great place to photograph. Mr. Arya, I would like to ask you now, how important is an acclimatization workshop in a photography tour?
You know, it's kind of very interesting. Whenever I've traveled abroad to any place, market is the best place to actually understand the culture of that place, how people would react to you, and how you can actually uh, disappear and start shooting, because you don't want to be, you want to observe things, you don't want to be observed. So a place like market is always a very comfortable zone for somebody to start with, because you don't stand out, you can merge with the crowd.
Right. Right. Thank you. So that's day two for you. And that's Delhi Heart. Fascinating place. Really love and miss Delhi Heart now that I've shifted to Assam. Day three, we wake up at the crack of dawn, arrive at the Rajpath for some pictures of the iconic colonial structures of Lutyens, Delhi at sunrise. After a leisurely breakfast, we continue to Old Delhi and spend the rest of the day there, clicking pictures of the monuments and the streets and the markets and everything. And we are also going to spend time at the Kucha Chaudhary market, which is the biggest wholesale market for cameras and camera accessories. We'll stay in Old Delhi till sunset. Mr. Arya, how special is Lutyens Delhi from a photography point of view?
So here, actually, in one day, you've tried to uh, actually load them on with lots of things.
Yeah.
So there are two things. In Lutyens Delhi, it's all about architecture. It's not about people so much. You will not be running into people. You will be shooting architecture and the best time to shoot architecture is morning or evening. But also remember, you are starting in the morning from Rajpath, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
So that's interesting, because the Rajpath faces the east. Okay, so you have to also think like a photographer. Photographers like to plan their trip to an architectural zone according to the light. What time is the best light? So morning hours and afternoons are the best angular lights. Midday is the worst light when it's top light.
Right.
Okay? So you have to be very sensitive to photographers' needs, and also what time to capture what activity. Like Chandni Chowk, also, I don't know what time you will hit Chandni Chowk, but by 10:30, the Chandni Chowk starts waking up, and the shop starts, and people start coming in from all sides, and the activity starts.
Right.
And then, sorry, you were saying something.
No. Please continue.
And then in the afternoon, because Chandni Chowk has a lot of narrow lanes and things like Kucha Chaudhary Market and other Dariba and Paranthe Wali Gali and all this Chowdi Bazaar side, and there you can shoot even during the midday because the light doesn't come. It's well lit, but there is no top light as such. A lot of times it's too narrow for top light to be coming. And and the activity is at its peak by noon, and by 4:30 it starts, people start packing up, and the traders are going back, and so it's, you have to study from the point of view of light and activity. That's how you have to plan your photography tours.
Right. And what are your favorite spots in Old Delhi?
Oh, it's all over. I can't, I mean, it's like a dream. It's like these are places like you can get lost, and you can spend days and hours shooting there. Each corner offers you drama of life unfolding, how people are. And the best part is there is so much of activity uh, that as a photographer, you tend to get lost. People don't stop to stare at you because they just carry on with their work.
Absolutely.
So that's what a photographer wants. He wants to be observer. He doesn't want to be observed. He doesn't want to stand out like a store thumb and say, oh, there is some. No, people don't have time. They just, it's like going to any other big international market like Turkey or somewhere where you can, Istanbul, where you can get lost in the crowds.
Right. Therefore, we'll spend the day experiencing and capturing history through the lens. Early morning, we'll visit the Humayun tomb, and post a leisurely breakfast, we'll spend time at the Mehrauli Archaeological Park, which is strewn with monuments, some dating back to almost a millennium. And then in the evening, we'll spend time at the Horse village. Um, Mr. Arya, the Horse village is very interesting during a sunset. Do you agree to this? I find it a fascinating place.
Yeah, because there's a water body there. So that
Right.
makes it interesting. And then in the whole concept of Soho and, those, they come alive in the evenings. But in this itinerary, there is one issue, which is the Mehrauli visit post lunch.
Post breakfast.
Post breakfast. Okay. So because again, those monuments are best seen before 11.
Okay. So you would recommend that the first visit the Mehrauli Archaeological Park, then the Humayun tomb, and then the Horse village market. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, there is a lot more to see in Mehrauli, and Humayun's tomb is a singular monument.
Right.
So I think it should be reversed. First, go to a larger area, which is Mehrauli, and then have your breakfast, and then go to Humayun's tomb.
Right, sir. Noted.
Also,
Noted.
don't forget one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Humayun's tomb faces west. The best light. Now, I'm just trying to, it's been a long time since I visited Humayun's tomb. It faces west, if I'm not wrong. The best light would on Humayun's tomb for a photographer would be in the afternoon, will be post 3.
Right, sir. Point noted.
Because if a monument is backlit, there is no fun.
Mm-hmm. And this is Horse for you, of course.
This is typically evening in Horse
Yeah.
which is so lively.
Day 5, we fly to Banaras, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. We explore capturing life and atmosphere in the narrow bylands. and we'll spend the evening clicking pictures of the Aarti ceremony by the river Ganga. Uh, Mr. Arya, your book Eternal Ganga is a journey in photographs of India's most revered river from its origin to the point where it merges with the sea, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Uh, can you tell us a little bit more about this journey, because this sounds so fascinating, you know?
You know, you'll be amazed. I started working on this picture on this book when I was 23 years old, and I finished it when I was 27. So I started this in 83, and long time back. And so, this was like my journey down the. I wanted to. I I was a travel photographer for first decade of my life in 80s, and I was I used to travel for almost 200 to 250 days in a year, and I was constantly on the move, just shooting pictures and working with magazines and publications and creating stories for them. And so I was very fascinated. I said, I must travel down all the rivers of India, and I could not do all the rivers, but Ganges itself took me 4 or 5 years. Why? I used to travel for, say, a month or 15 days, come back to Delhi, do some commercial work, sell the images, make some money, because everything was self financed. Everything was, so it was a trip, it was my journey. It was not only the uh, I wanted to see India. I was very young, and those days traveling in India was a very different ball game. There were there were no cell phones. There was no things were very tough. You had to really be like, I used to sometimes go out for months, and my parents used to never know where, because I knew one thing: if I was to write to them, the letter would reach probably after I have returned, after 2 months or 3 months. And so it was easier. I mean, there used to be telephone service, but it used to be PPP. You had to call up some neighbor or somebody in the area and say, get my parents online, go to that house, call them. I want to speak to them. But places like this is Gangotri and Gomukh. This is Gomukh, actually, the source of the river. It was fascinating to spend time with these sadhus and trying to understand why do they do these things. So it was my journey trying to capture what was happening.
Another picture I found fascinating in your book is this particular picture. Uh, I can see cows on the boat, and they don't really look healthy. Where are they going? What's happening in here in this picture?
Okay, so two things. I spent a lot of time in Ladakh, in Bihar, going back and forth during various seasons. And as you can see, the Ganga is muddy. So this was during the monsoons when Ganga becomes ocean. It's like for miles and miles. And lot of small islands emerge, in the sense, because area around it gets submerged, and so then the animals have to be transported across the Ganga to the mainland. And I suspected, and I still suspect, maybe they were going to be to go into slaughterhouse, because, and why they look malnourished, because during monsoon, when these areas get submerged, there is lack of fodder. So, you know, then they have to get hold of a big boat like this and arrange for the transportation. And you can imagine it's really tough transporting so many cattle on these country boats.
Yeah, it's a country boat. I mean, it's probably is it? It's not even a mechanized boat, if I'm not wrong.
No, it's a local country boat, you know,
Yeah.
and it was kind of a scary at times traveling on these. During summer months, they use this to carry the sand, and otherwise they use it for cattle during the monsoons.
And you
Because
have and you have traveled in one of these?
oh yes, I was on this side of the.
Wow. During monsoon, fascinating.
I mean, you
What?
know, in this was probably 83, 84. I was 23 years old, and I used to travel with the camera in a small backpack, and one didn't worry about anything. And like today, we are sitting in COVID time. In this village, a very crazy incident happened. This is a village called Sitab there, between UP and Bihar, where see, those days, um, AIDS had just about started spreading. Okay, just like today's scenario. And one villager asked me, he says, "I believe there is a disease called AIDS." He said, "AIDS." So I didn't understand for a long time. Then I said, what is this? I said, my God, he's wanting to know about AIDS and how does it spread and what is happening and that the world is going crazy because of AIDS and things. You know, so we had a long chat. I mean, today you reminded me of this. What was I chatting with that guy on this around this village? Yeah, you're talking about AIDS. The
Yeah. Fascinating. Huh? Thank you for sharing this with us, Mr. Arya. Again, okay. So that's the Ghats of Banaras for you. Basics. We
So you
begin.
missed out on one thing
Yeah.
about Banaras. So Banaras, morning hours have to be spent at the Ghat.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
Ghats actually face the east,
Hmm.
and the maximum activity happens there in the morning.
Right.
And the Aarti related activity happens in the evening.
Right.
And during daytime is the market,
Yeah.
which is very fascinating.
Yeah. So we begin the day at the crack of dawn to arrive at the Ghats and witness all the activities there. We'll enjoy breakfast in the old Haveli by the river and then continue exploring Banaras's bazaars and its meandering pathways. And during the night, we are doing this very special walk called the Death and Rebirth Walk. Uh, People may not be able to use their cameras everywhere, but it's certainly a very, very fascinating walk that we strongly recommend people do. And Mr. Arya, what are your favorite spots in Banaras? It's a fascinating place for photography, I know. But what are your favorite places in Banaras to click pictures? Mine is I completely get blown away by the early morning activities in the Ghats. I I am at complete peace when I see that.
It's the Ghats. And I used to typically walk from one end to the other end. Or I used to hire a boat every day and go down the ghats and keep getting off and getting on and shoot the ghats. And because there was so much of drama happening, people were coming there to worship, to bathe, to perform all their rituals. And so, you know, everything was happening there.
So the Ghats are your favorite places in Banaras.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mine too. It's absolutely amazing to be there at any time of the day. Day 7, we fly from Banaras to Delhi and we spend the late afternoon in the Qutub Minar and evening at the 14th century Shahpur Jat village. Um, That's day 7 for you.
Uh, Pretty interesting. So you were spending the morning in Qutub Minar, if I'm not wrong.
No, you'll be flying into Delhi in the morning hours.
What time do you reach Qutub Minar? Is what I'm.
Uh, we envisage that in the late afternoon.
Okay, you still get, though Qutub Minar again, the best monuments face the east, but which is again morning hours. But nonetheless, you do get a strong directional light in the afternoon, which brings out the texture of the stones.
Right.
So it's there is a lot of possibility in post lunch also, but morning is the best time for Qutub Minar again,
Right. And in the evening, we are going to spend the time at Shahpur Jat.
which is fantastic
Yeah.
because these small cafes and just
Yeah.
like your Housecast village
Yeah.
is yet
Yeah.
another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Day 8, we drive to Agra, and in the afternoon, we visit some of the lesser known riverside monuments, and we end our day at the Mehta Bagh with stunning views of the Taj Mahal on the other side of the Yamuna. So that's day 8 for us.
yeah, and Itmadullah and
Itmadola, Rambagh, Chini Ka Rosa, these are kinds of unknown, lesser known monuments. It's pretty very interesting out there.
yeah, because they have some fantastic layouts and detailing, which can only be seen here. They cannot be
Right.
seen anywhere else.
Uh,
In Mughal architecture, they're actually classic examples of Mughal architecture.
right. Day 9, we visit the Taj Mahal early morning. Uh, then after breakfast, we head out to the old city of Agra, and then late in the afternoon, we visit the Roman Catholic cemetery, which is Agra's best kept secret, where we have the red Taj Mahal built by built for a 19th century Dutch mercenary for her husband. Sir, here I would like to ask you, Mr. Arya, when it comes to street photography, we've talked about Old Delhi, the markets of Banaras, and here in Old Agra. Street photography, what are the 3 basic points a photographer needs to keep in mind when it comes to street photography?
It's like it's like capturing a slice of life. It's
Yeah,
how you merge in the crowds and you're able to isolate something. You're able to something which is and juxtapose it against something. It could be textures, it could be colors, it could be an expression on somebody's face. So street photography is about juxtaposing something against something. It's about isolating little elements, could be colors, could be textures. So there are many things in street photography. It's There are people who will only shoot faces while they're on the road. There are people who are only looking for objects while they're on the road. There are people who would like to juxtapose them against old uh, contemporary ads, something which creates a sense of contradiction. An old person walking past something very upmarket, modern. So it's about people have different kind of passions, and street photography is about how you react to things. Actually, it's very interesting. Sometimes before stepping out in the morning, if you were to um, get people to talk about, to give them clues as to what they are going to see, then they will start looking for it. See, because people don't have much time. So it's best to give them a clue about the street. And, it's like awakening their senses to something.
Right. Thank you. That's of course beautiful Taj Mahal. Day 10 will make a day trip to Fatehpur Sikri and then spend time at the Agra Fort, another UNESCO World Heritage Site, during sunset. And after dinner, we'll gather for a session of photo critiquing. So here I would like to ask you something. I mean, you have really talked before about the direction of the sun, the light condition. When it comes to photographing a monument, what would be your top 3 tips?
So the light, I would like, so each monument has a certain direction, and a lot of Mughal monuments, the Muslim monuments, Hindu monuments, they face, either they're facing west or east. Very rarely you will find a monument facing north or south. I've traveled very extensively all over the country. I can say today, after almost 40 years in this profession, there are only 2 states in this country where I have not lived or worked. Otherwise, there is no major town in this country where I have not lived or worked. Monuments, people design architecture according, the architects study the light of the place before they start designing. They actually see how the light will travel on the surfaces, on what kind of textures it will bring out, what kind of shadows it will cast. So, I mean, these are the things. I mean, what time of the day you'll have to visit a certain monument is what you have to. And each monument has certain angles which are fantastic, which you should talk about sometimes, because if a photographer or a visitor or your client has only 5 hours, why not give him certain clues? If this is the place and it looks very nice from here, this is what it is actually, what the architecture is of the place. Because if these are photographers and if these are not ordinary tourists, they would be happy to have these little clues.
Right.
Tips.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Day 11, we traveled to Jaipur, making a stop at Abaneri to click the beautiful stepwell of Chand Bauri. That's the Chand Bauri. It's the deepest stepwell in India and lovely, very beautiful with intricate carvings, and the sunrise here is just amazing. Won't you agree, Mr. Arya?
Somehow I've always seen this around 10:30, 9:30. I've never
Right.
seen the sunrise here. I must, because why I never go to this place during sunrise, because the sun has to go inside the step well. It's, if you go too early, the light won't have reached the step well. Hello, Kuntil.
Yeah, I'm here. And day 12, weather permitting, we'll enjoy a hot air balloon ride for a bird's eye view of Jaipur and some fantastic photographs. Um, Early evening, we'll explore the old city on foot to see the traditional vocation of artisans. And that's day 12 for you. Mr. Arya, what is your favorite spots in Jaipur?
Oh, there's, I mean, the old markets, the walled city is
Yeah.
absolutely stunning.
Where we are walking today in the evening. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Early morning, evening at the lake opposite the Trident. That's another area which is fantastic. And post breakfast visit to the fort.
This is, of course, the Hawa Mahal, one of the most photographed monument in Jaipur. Day 13, we travel in 4x4 jeeps to the village of Samo, then spend the time exploring the countryside. Uh, then in the evening, we'll enjoy a gala farewell dinner with local musicians. The cuisine tonight will be authentic Rajasthani, and the food home cooked and atmosphere relaxed. Yeah, Mr. Arya, I would like to ask you something. You have spent 6 years covering the 16 Naga tribes in your book, The Land of the Nagas. And this was much before Hornbill Festival, which has made it easy for the photographers, where they get all the tribes in one place now for 10 days in the month of December. Tell us more about your journeys in Nagaland while documenting the different Naga tribes.
I'm so allergic to that word Hornbill Festival. A lot of people have asked me, why don't you visit us? I said, sorry, I cannot. So my background, I started working in Nagaland in 1984 and I worked there till 90. I made hundreds of trips. I used to go there for a month, 2 months, come back, do something, try and sell some pictures, do an article or publish somewhere or do some commercial assignment. And then, because one could not just live on fresh air there, but one needed money. And things in 80s were very difficult. There was a lot of insurgency in Nagaland. But what I saw of Nagaland was so genuine, was so pure, was so authentic that today I get, I'm so allergic to the word Hornbill Festival because that's all, nothing exists. And why I started working in Nagaland in 80s is as a photographer, I feel it is the responsibility of photographer to create archives, to document the lifestyle, the places, everything for future generations. So we are the archivists, we are the visual historians. Whatever we create, um, whatever photographers create will be interpreted by future generations. So now you have seen those images in the book. I was witness to days in 1984 when they still had hundreds of human heads in their drawing rooms of the tribal heads. Why? Headhunting was practiced till few years back, and the shelves displayed the trophies, the human heads. Nothing exists today. There was, in some of the village, there was not even one single pakka ghar. It was all thatched homes. So what I documented, those thousands and thousands of images today are very important for people, for the future generations to study how did the Nagas live during those days.
And one particular picture here caught my fancy. This is what was happening, Mr. Arya, in this particular picture. And where was this? Do you remember?
Yes, tiger is one of the most important aspect in Naga culture. They think certain people have the spirit of the tiger. So if you were to, there are hundreds of books which have been written on the the concept of spirit of the tiger. Some people they had the spirit. And tiger hunting. So actually hunting was very prevalent in 80s. And I was actually lucky to shoot two very sad incidents when tigers were hunted, chopped, and cooked and eaten by the villagers. This is in a village called Chui, Cognac village, near Jorhat. And, from Mon district, you go to Chui. And so this is how people lived there. I was there. I was spending time when I got to know in the neighboring village that there was a tiger hunt and they were going to cook the tiger, they were going to skin the tiger, and in my book I have the whole sequence.
And what's happening here? And here basically, is this kind of a vine, a tripper? What are these women doing?
Festival where they sing around, they dance around, and they hold this. So most of their festivals, like any festivals anywhere in the world, a festival is about Thanksgiving. It's about Thanksgiving to nature, for a good crop, for a good rain, for good weather. So here they're holding this forest wine, which is specially brought for this occasion.
Right. So day 14, we start from Samud, and we spend time at the Amber Fort, clicking pictures, and we later walk around the not so touristy cobble pathways of Amber village in the foothills, which offers lovely photo opportunities. And we drive to Delhi, post an early lunch. And day 14, we depart Delhi for the onward journey. Just to let you know that photography ban lifted on ASI protected monuments in 2018. There is still no clarity about tripods from the Archaeological Society of India. Special permissions may be required for the same. There could be an additional fee applicable. We have to deal with this on a case-to-case basis. Mr. Arya, do you have any information on any clarity about tripods from the Archaeological Survey of India?
So we've been fighting this with them for very long, and initially there was a ban on photography, which was removed because somebody like me, I mean, I had great issues with it. I mean, end of the day, it's not somebody's private property. It belongs to the people of this country. It belongs to the mankind. You cannot say that I will not allow you to photograph this. Now the issue is with the tripod. There are two things to it. There is an old historical fact that tripods were huge, and in certain monuments where the surfaces were highly polished marble, they could scratch the surface. Now the point is they have not been able to differentiate between that, but it is actually something, a time has come for that to be also taken up and resolved. Which are the monuments where you can use a tripod, where you can't use a tripod. Secondly, tripods were typically used by filmmakers. So this was also an idea to, since films are commercial, they were always trying to, okay, can we extract some money out of filmmaker? Can we charge a filmmaker? Then they said, okay, let's charge him according to the format of the film. Is he shooting 8 mm or 16 mm or what? So today, the film doesn't exist. So I don't know what is the status on, but obviously that tripod rule has remained purely because of ignorance of many people, that there was a historical reason for it. And today, tripods have rubbers under them, they don't harm. Or can you actually segregate the areas where the tripods should be allowed, where they may, on a wall on top of a fort, you can allow a tripod. There's no need to be so fussy about using a tripod.
Right. Thank you for that insight. And flying drones are strictly prohibited.
So drones are prohibited all over India. Day before yesterday, the final order had come down from Government of India for all the drone operators in India to submit their details for licenses. I think it expired day before or yesterday. There was a big ad in the newspaper saying, please apply for drone license, because various reasons that drones can be used to drop, something on top of something. Yeah, and they also, you can cause an interference with aircrafts and things and all, especially around airports.
Some insider tips. So it's maximum 10 guests. This itinerary is good only during the months of October, November, before the smog sets in, and February, March, and April. When clicking photos in religious places, remove your footwear and be careful not to disturb those in prayer. In the Manikarnika Ghat or burning ghats of Banaras, where they cremate the dead, photography is strictly prohibited and is considered offensive. People in India love it when you take pictures of them. However, it's only polite to seek their permission before doing so. Do ask the tour escort if one is required to remove footwear when entering somebody's house, and if it's okay to photograph the inside of the homes. The 45-minute change of guard ceremony, which takes place every Saturday morning, is a fantastic event to photograph. Timings vary depending on the time of the year. One needs to book their seats in advance on the website of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Uh, every October, Delhi celebrates Dashera. Again, a great opportunity to photograph. Diwali, October, November. Dev Deepavali, which is held in Banaras in the month of November. Last day of the Pushkar fair, again, where the ghats are lit by millions of oil lamps. Again, a very interesting time to be in Banaras. Pushkar fair every November. Add 2 extra nights post Jaipur if you want to come during the Pushkar fair. And the Bateshwar fair, which is held during October, November near Agra, is again a very interesting time to do this itinerary. It is the second largest animal fair. Add 2 nights extra at the Chambal Safari Lodge, an award-winning eco-friendly property. In the Explore brochure, the itinerary looks like this. For hotels and indicative costs, get in touch with the Destination Knowledge Center or your relationship manager. Thank you. We'll take your Q&A, but before that, I would like Mr. Arya to talk very briefly about his museum that he has set up with so many rare cameras, the largest collection in Asia, if I'm not.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so if you're ever passing by, I'll give you all a little walk through the museum. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to pick up my laptop and show you. So this is just one of the galleries where I'm sitting, which traces the history of photography. We have more than 2,500, 3,000 cameras and objects and artifacts from 1850 here, which trace the history of photography. It's one of the most unique museums of its kind in the country and in the world. We opened only last August, and unfortunately this pandemic has come and hit us very badly. We do many things here. We have a beautiful cafe or restaurant. We do events. We do talks and workshops on. So you will see there's a there's so much of history of photography here. This is just one of the galleries, and so there are two large galleries with an exhibition halls, and this is how actually studios used to look like in 19th century. This is a so it's an experiential place which so that's a small virtual tour of the museum. And
Thank you, thank you so much, Mr. Arya. I'm sure we're just waiting for the.
yes, you're welcome. Anybody who wants to know more about photography or would like to do. So one thing which you missed out in your tour, which is very, you talked about architecture,
Yeah.
you talked about street, but a lot of people are very interested in shooting uh, food and documenting food and how what the locals eat. So there is lots of that in all these markets, something to shoot.
Right. So, Mr. Arya, we have included that the evening walk in Jaipur, which we have specially curated. Food is an integral part of that walk. The evening walk in Jaipur, the food is an integral part of that walk, and also Old Delhi. Old Delhi, we are what how we have designed it. Detailed itinerary. It's like food is also an integral part both in Old Delhi and the Jaipur walk, photography walk.
Yeah, food is an experience. People.
Yeah, food is an experience, absolutely. And we have a few questions, Mr. Arya.